You guys ever been here before? Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Friday, welcome back. Today is April 27, 2018. And we're here. And let's get this going. Real quick, before I continue today with today's episode, before I start with today's episode, I noticed that yesterday, my episode was pretty much extremely long, and some of my episodes are kind of long, but I wanted to ask you guys, because again, this is mainly for you guys, also for me, I like to talk, but mainly for you guys. Is the episode too long? Is it way too long? Do you guys want to keep this under, around 10 minutes? I want to make it at least 10 minutes, but do you guys want to keep it in the 10-minute range? Or would you guys, you guys don't really care? Do you guys, prefer the long episodes? Whatever. Just so that I know, so that I can keep, tabs on what I'm doing over here too. So I'm not, too long-winded, and, I'm not saying information that's really important, like towards the end of a 30-minute episode, and most people don't catch it because they're too busy and they just don't have time to fast forward through all my crap. But if you prefer something like that, if you prefer a little edited down version, just so you can get more information, a little condensed, let me know, okay? I'll definitely try to work on that, okay? Because again, this is mainly information for you guys and for everybody, so that we can all, build this together. So, all right, just a little caveat before we start today's episode. So please let me know, okay? So that way we can, so I can make a better product for you guys and so on. Now, today is going to be a short episode. Why? It's going to be a little bit of a little experiment on me, a little trial error type thing to see how I can do. But as we know, we're looking at the crypto market crap, and everything's fucking amazing. It's all green and fucking wonderful. We're happy as hell. EOS is pumping like a motherfucker. It's almost at 20 bucks. It's crazy. There's this website that I saw today on Twitter. I'm linking it at the bottom right here. I forget what the fuck is it called. It's called the TX Highway. You guys have to check it out. It is fucking hilarious. I was trying to figure out how to record my screen so that I can put it on here for you guys so you can see it. But please, just click on that link. This shit's fucking hilarious. I think it was some Bitcoin Cash lover that made this website. Just made this little thing. But it's super cool because it's just like a, like an 8-bit video game type setup. And what it is just like a gigantic highway with all these trucks going through, showing all the Bitcoin core, Bitcoin transactions, and then Bitcoin Cash transactions. And it's just fucking hilarious. You get to see like the little Bitcoin highway down here. It's constantly, busy. You see the Bitcoin Cash highway. It's like a fucking 8-lane highway. You see like, one car. A motorcycle, and then you see at the bottom all these Bitcoin transactions, like all these trucks, all these things that mean a lot. It's really cool. Just check it out. I know you guys will fucking love it. I can't stop watching it. Fuck, I feel like I'm almost, if I zone out too much, I'm about to start picturing Frogger. Anyway, speaking of which, let's just switch off a little bit, because again, the crypto space is just fucking blowing up every single fucking day. Everything is blowing up every single fucking day. For example, I wake up this morning and all of a sudden I see the president of North Korea and the president of South Korea shaking hands. So, come on, man. Just like a few months ago, we were going to fucking World War III with these motherfuckers, right? With North Korea, because all this craziness and all this stuff. And the reality is that, we're seeing, not just with, with that political situation, but we're seeing a lot of things around the world, around the planet, that are constantly like mind fucking the world, and humanity as a whole. Maybe more so in this country than others, but man, whatever, man. It's just crazy stuff. So, and I'm just gonna talk about this for 2 seconds, but again, Kanye West is constantly in the news, just breaking the internet all the time. Look, man, and I'm just FYI, I like his music, I like him, I think he's great. The fact that this is so polarizing, I think is fucking hilarious and speaks volumes to the whole situation. Because come on, what the fuck should we care? You know what I mean? The point is, the only real point, okay, of me bringing him up and the story is the fact that, look, he's a super crazy popular artist, person, whatever, and he had just come out and flatly just said, okay, and yeah, sure, he says I love Trump, he says I love all these things, but the reality is of what the message of what he's trying to say is that, listen, I'm not falling for this shit anymore. I'm waking the fuck up. You guys better wake the fuck up too. And that's it. That's all he's saying. So a lot of people, that are like me, for example, huge fans, huge everything. Not just fans, but fans, you know, but also are, you know, fully aware of what's going on with the world. We see him, I see him, you know, an idol. I mean, I don't know how to say it. It's not really an idol, but like, you know, whatever. Like a musician I really love a lot, and I see him, you know, starting to think like I think, and like, you know, it makes me feel really fucking good, because there's not many artists that think like us right now. So he is doing a service for a lot of us, a lot of artists, a lot of people, you know, by being the first one to go out there. Look, Chance the Rapper, you know, is behind them. There's a couple people behind them, but then, you know, you see a bunch of other artists that are not behind them. And again, this is all could just be publicity and all this other stuff. But like, for example, man, look, I don't want to harp too much on this, but, you know, like, for example, like when you see like someone like Drake or Rihanna, you know, like not, you know, unfollow him on Twitter. Man, come on, you know, this is all publicity bullshit, okay? You know, if you guys really know anything, you know, Drake is on his label. And pretty much all of Drake's success has come from Kanye, and they love each other despite of anything you might fucking hear, okay? Because he owes everything to Kanye. And there's a lot of artists like that, okay? You know, I'm not gonna fucking, you know, stick on, you know, talk about Rihanna in that way, but in the same time, you know, Rihanna has a lot to owe to him, and there's a lot of artists, okay, that consider Kanye amazing. So he is a trailblazer, like him or not, okay, and what he's doing right now. And again, it's not about opinions. It's not about anything like that. It's just about the fact that, you know, it is about opinions, and it is about that. It's the fact that, you know, he is putting his opinion out there, and he's not really giving a fuck about what anyone thinks. And that's how we all should be doing right now. Period. Okay. You know, it is about right and wrong and all these other things, but it really is more about free speech and voicing your opinion. Period. In the story. That's why we live in this fucking country. That's why so many people leave their countries, even a super highly developed country, to come to this country, because we have this thing of free speech, okay? We still have it, believe it or not, okay? Even though we're losing all our rights every single day, we still have that. This country is very unique in that sense, okay? Not just a free speech, but all the rights and all the things that we have. And, you know, again, even though we have lost most of them, we still have them. We still have our Constitution, and we still have the power of the people, and it's just up to the people to wake the fuck up and take our rights back. Henceforth, whenever I see Kanye or anyone of that ilk trying to fight back to get our rights back, that's why I back them up, and we all should back all these people up, because that's all they're trying to do. They're just trying to wake everybody up and remind everybody, hey, listen, we are new slaves, but the reality is that we are putting these chains on ourselves, and, you know, here is the information for us to free ourselves, but we can't do it alone. We have to do it all together, and that's it. So this is how this starts, and this is why we're living in amazing, enlightened times, okay? And all this backlash, man, look, man, again, just go back to the Matrix, okay? Any kind of backlash, these are all just Agent Smiths, okay? If you don't know what I mean by that, watch the movie again, okay? So an Agent Smith is just someone that all of a sudden just turns on you, okay, when you're making perfect sense, and they just turn on you because you're going up against, you know, the norm, the Matrix, the societal.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
I was...
Look again. Freeze it.
This isn't the Matrix.
No. It's another training program designed to teach you one thing. If you are not one of us, you are one of them.
What are they?
Sentient programs. They can move in and out of any software still hardwired to their system. That means that anyone we haven't unplugged is potentially an agent. Inside the Matrix, they are everyone, and they are no one.
We have survived by hiding from them, by running from them. But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them.
Someone.
I won't lie to you, Neo. Every single man or woman who has stood their ground, everyone who has fought an agent has died. But where they have failed, you will succeed.
Why?
I've seen an agent punch through a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips at them and hit nothing but air. Yet their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be.
What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets?
No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to.
We got trouble.
So look, I don't want to harp too much on this shit. The point is that, you know, Jordan Peterson, another motherfucker that I hold, you know, in high regard, and a lot of you guys hold in high regard as well. You know, hey, you know, him and Kanye are best buddies now. And it's not that they're best buddies, it's just the fact of the free speech and all that has to do with it, with all this. And again, this has so much to do with the crypto space, okay? It just does. You know, this is all we're doing here. We are providing freedom and sovereignty to everybody through technology. The end. Okay, that's why when we see a Bitcoin Cash, and you know, it makes us cringe. It gives us, you know, we go fucking irate because something like a Bitcoin Cash goes against everything that we're trying to do here. It goes against everything that Satoshi, you know, had in mind when he created Bitcoin. You know, same thing with Charlie Lee when he did with Litecoin, and so forth and so on. Okay, so. You know, this is, I'm gonna light it. By the way, today, we are smoking, hold on. Gotta do a little weed review today, right? So we got some Chronic Thunder. Maybe you can read it there. Look, Chronic Thunder. Look, they gave me 2 labels. This is how strong this shit is. It isn't, it's not Chronic Thunder. No, wait, wrong. This is it. The Zombie Kush. Again, 2 labels just because. So I got some zombie kush, right? So if you see me turn into a zombie, it's because I was watching too much of the Kardashians. It has nothing to do with it. But anyway, I'm just I think I'm gonna end the episode here. We're almost at 10 minutes, and the reality that tastes good. Anyway, the reality is that again, we're going through a ginormous shift in everything right now, okay? And the way we perceive things as a population, the way that we're, you know, interacting with things, the way that everything is just going, period, end of story. Like, it's just, damn, this tastes really good. Holy shit. It reminds me of some shit I smoked when I was I don't know why, it gave me a memory of like when I was a teenager. Shit. Oh, Zombie Kush. Remember, I'm from Florida, so you guys remember we had zombies back then? I don't know if you guys remember, like, when the fuck were people eating that spice or eating, what the fuck was it? Remember, we have all these, we create a lot of these drugs that, you know, they're normal everywhere now, but, yeah, anyway, yeah, when we had that zombie apocalypse in Florida, or, you know, when people were taking drugs and, you know, acting like, Anyway.
There was a horrifying naked cannibal attack in Miami. It involved a 31-year-old by the name of Rudy Eugene, and he was found literally eating the face off another naked victim.
Yeah. Wow. Now, when the cops approached him, it's first because a bystander had seen him and tried to get him off, and he wouldn't come off. The cops come, and now you're seeing pictures of their legs underneath the bridge there, and you can see that, of course, they didn't have clothes on, and the cops tried to get him off, and he wouldn't come off, so the cops shot him once, and the guy continued to eat the other guy's face.
In fact, when the police official originally told him to stop eating the victim's face, he looked up at the officer and growled. Okay, so he was that high that he was acting in that manner. Anyway, as you mentioned, he got shot. And also, a police official said, quote, 75 to 80% of his face, the victim's face, was missing.
And he went on to also say he was actually swallowing pieces of the man's face. Now, of course, after the first gunshot, the guy didn't stop, as Anna told you, so then he had to be shot several more times, and he's dead. The victim, amazingly, is not dead. He's in critical condition, but he's in a hospital in the Miami area, and he's still alive. And apparently the LSD-like substance that this Rudy Eugene took was called bath salts. which of course makes me never want to take bath salts, or by the way, any drug, period. And this is not the only time that somebody's flipped out on this. Apparently, there was an ultra music festival in March where a naked reveler, Evan Oberfelder, had attacked a Good Samaritan and then first responders, and it took so many cops to get him under control. And they say that the drug might actually, believe it or not, give you superhuman strength and use your, this is out of the story, okay? This is not me saying it. They use your jaws as weapons. Ugh. And they take off their clothes because it makes them feel so hot. And so,
right, your body overheats.
So this is warning number 2. You see a naked dude running around, get away from his jaws. Okay?
So, careful. All right, guys. What else? What else? Just prepare yourselves, all right, mentally. All right, for what's to come. Enjoy the fucking weekend. Keep tabs on the fucking news. But the reality is, it seems like everything is, I mean, everything is picking up when it comes to, like, you know, the snowball effect. You know, all the craziness of the awakening of the earth is happening, you know, like a lot. Like, it's gaining momentum. But as that's also happening, you know, the threat, the humongous threat of nuclear war, horribleness, all this shit is actually decreasing. I don't know if you guys can feel it in the air, but I can feel it, you know what I mean? As more enlightenment comes about, more awakening comes about, more of this comes about, more people are, you know, becoming, look, again, I remember when I told you guys about Jordan Peterson and Bill Maher, and like, I've been hating on Bill Maher for a very long time. As soon as I saw him talking with Jordan Peterson, I mean, it made me feel so good, you know, because it's like, you know, Bill Maher was being himself. He was like the old Bill Maher, and he was fucking, you know, just talking and being real and frustrated, and it's just amazing. And it's amazing, you know, and it's not just that. Like, I'm sure if you guys don't feel it like I do, whenever I talk to anyone on the street, you know, now the conversations are just easier, they flow better. Because, you know, people are not scared anymore to really voice their opinion. They know that things are wrong. They see others, okay, others that have a lot to lose voice their opinion because it said enough is enough. And again, now, you know, others that are just, you know, in their shit job and they have, you know, again, a lot to lose, but in reality, nothing to lose compared to others. They just feel more empowered to really voice their voice and so forth and so on. That's why knowledge is power. That's why when someone like again, I keep bringing up Kanye because he's the only one that's really done it. Roseanne is another one, but that's a little different. And there's others like that, these people. But it's just that, you know, this guy, all his fans were literally, for the most part, you know, the anti-Trump, and he just did a fucking 360. Does not give a fuck about anything because all he really gives a fuck is, you know, what is right. And you know, it's just it's throwing a monkey wrench into everything, and again, you know, flipping that switch, the mental switch on a lot of fucking people, whether they want it or not. And it's just happening, and it's happening. Not just here in this country, but all around the world. And it's just, again, all right? And this is how people are going to get on the crypto boat, crypto train, all right? That's how people are going to get involved with all this shit. Because as people start waking the fuck up, figuring out that, you know, this entity called the Fed prints money, you know, sells it to our government, then the government sells it back to us, you know what I mean? And we have to pay all this fucking interest on.
The Treasury issues IOUs, bonds. The banks then buy those IOUs with currency. The Federal Reserve then writes IOUs, checks, and hands them to the banks in exchange for the Treasury's IOUs, the bonds. And currency is created. So what's really happening is the Federal Reserve and the Treasury are just swapping IOUs, using the banks as middlemen, and abracadabra, presto, currency magically springs into existence. This process repeats and repeats over and over again, enriching the banks and indebting the public by raising the national debt. The end result is that there's a buildup of bonds at the Federal Reserve and currency at the Treasury. This process is also where all paper currency comes from. The Federal Reserve and the government mistakenly call it base money because they didn't watch episode 1 of this series and they don't know the difference between money and currency. But I will correctly refer to it as base currency because it is not money. It is currency, and as we've learned, there is a big difference. Money has to be a store of value and maintain its purchasing power over long periods of time. We learned in episode 1 that earlier in our history, our paper currency was just a claim check. It was a representation for real money of intrinsic value, the gold and silver that was held on deposit at the Treasury. You could walk into any bank and slap your currency, like say a $20 bill, on the counter and redeem it for real money, a $20 gold piece. But now, this base currency that's piling up back here is really nothing but a receipt or a claim check on an IOU, that bond. So it's really nothing but a supply of numbers. The Treasury then deposits the newly created currency into the various branches of the government, and the politicians say, hey, thanks for that. And the government does some deficit spending on public works, social programs, and war. The government employees, contractors, and soldiers then deposit their pay in the banks. Now, this may come as a shock to you, but when you deposit your currency with the bank, you're not actually depositing it into an account to be safely held in trust for you. Instead, you're actually loaning the bank your currency, and within certain legal limits, they can do with it pretty much anything they please. This includes gambling in the stock market and loaning it out, at a profit, of course. Now this is where the machine of currency creation really gets cranking, because this is where something called fractional reserve lending comes into play. Fractional reserve lending is exactly what it says. The banks are allowed to reserve only a fraction of your deposit and loan the rest out. Although reserve ratios may vary, I'm going to use a 10% reserve ratio as our example. If you deposit $100 in your account, the bank can legally take $90 of it and loan it out without telling you. The bank must hold $10 of your deposit in reserve just in case you want some of it. These reserves are called vault cash. But why does your bank account still say you have $100 if the bank has stolen $90 of it? Because the bank left IOUs it created, called bank credit, in its place. Now I know this sounds crazy, but here it is in black and white from the Fed. Commercial banks create checkbook money when they grant a loan simply by adding new deposit dollars in accounts on their books in exchange for a borrower's IOU. These are nothing but numbers that the banks type into their computers. And even though these bank credit IOU numbers are very different from base currency numbers, because they only exist in computers, they are still currency. So now there is $190 in existence. Now the reason people take out loans from the banks is to buy something. They're going to buy a house or a car or something like that. So the borrower takes the $90 that the bank loaned to him from your account, and he pays the seller of the item. But then the seller deposits that currency into his account, and his bank loans out 90% of that and leaves bank credit numbers in its place. So now there's $271 in existence. This process repeats and repeats until under a 10% reserve ratio, an initial deposit of just $100 can create up to $1,000 of bank credit, all backed by $100 of vault cash, just 10%. But as I said, reserve ratios vary wildly. On some deposits, it's 10%, on others, it's 3%, and on some forms of deposits, reserve requirements are 0. The result is that the expansion of the currency supply by the banks is far greater than even this example would lead you to believe. So once again, when currency is deposited in the banks get to lend it out, and then it gets redeposited and relent, redeposited and relent, redeposited and relent over and over again, creating bank credit all the way. This is where the vast majority of our currency supply comes from. In fact, 92 to 96% of all currency in existence is created not by the government, but here in the banking system. Now, massive amounts of currency spewing into society may at first sound like a fun idea. That is, until you remember one of the most important hidden secrets of money from episode 1, that the prices of everyday goods and services act as a sponge on an expanding currency supply. The more currency we have, the more prices rise. This is where inflation comes from. The true definition of inflation is an expansion of the currency supply. Rising prices are merely the symptom. So our entire currency supply is nothing but a couple of bucks whipped up in this hocus-pocus scam where the Treasury and the Federal Reserve swap glorified IOUs, and a bunch of numbers that the banks just type into their computers. That's it. That's our entire currency supply. It's nothing but a supply of numbers. Some of them printed, most of them typed, and there is nothing else. But if you thought that was crazy, get ready to enter the twilight zone of modern economics. We work for some of that currency supply. True wealth is your time, but we trade away moments of our lives, hour by hour, day by day, and year by year, for numbers that somebody printed on pieces of paper or just typed into a computer. Now those numbers represent our blood, sweat, tears, labor, ideas, and talent. We are what gives the currency its value. But here comes the really cruel joke. We work hard so that we can save some of that currency, so that we can pay the tax collector. In the United States, it's known as the IRS. They then turn it over to the Treasury so that the Treasury can pay the principal plus interest on that bond that the Federal Reserve bought with a check drawn on an account that has nothing in it. Now let's do a recap on this section, because this is where the system begins to rob you and I on a massive scale. Much of our taxes are not used for schools, roads, and public services, but to pay interest on bonds that the Federal Reserve bought with a check drawn on an account that has nothing in it. The Federal Reserve is committing fraud. But here's one of the biggest secrets of them all. Before the establishment of the Federal Reserve, there was no need for personal income tax. The Federal Reserve was created in 1913, and that very same year, the Constitution was amended to allow income tax. Do you really think this was just a coincidence? Ask yourself how much income tax you've paid over your lifetime. Much of it has been silently siphoned away into the hands of those who own the system. Yes, this system has owners. Who they are is an even bigger secret that we'll get to shortly. But first, we need to understand the mumbo-jumbo of the so-called debt ceiling. It's all based on a huge paradox. There was interest due on that bond, and there was interest due on every one of those loans that the banks made. That means that there is interest due on every dollar in existence. Let me ask you something. If you borrow the very first dollar into existence, and that's the only dollar that exists on the planet, but you promise to pay it back plus another dollar's worth of interest, where do you get the second dollar to pay the interest? The answer is that you have to borrow that one into existence and promise to pay it back with interest as well. So now there are $2 in existence, but you owe $4, and so on and so on. The result is there's never enough currency to pay the debt. There is always more debt in the system than there is currency in existence to pay the debt. Therefore, the whole system is impossible. It is finite. It will come to an end one day. What would happen if the government stopped borrowing to do deficit spending? Are the payments on those treasury bonds going to stop? What would happen if the public stopped borrowing and going deeper into debt? Are your house and car payments going to stop? No. There is a payment due every month on the principal plus the interest on every dollar in existence, and those payments do not stop. If we stop borrowing, then no new currency is created to replace the currency that we used to make those payments. Whether you're making a payment on a loan or paying tax to make a payment on a bond, the portion of the payment that goes to pay off the principal extinguishes that portion of the debt. But the debt also extinguishes the currency. Currency and debt are like matter and antimatter. When they meet, they annihilate each other. If we just pay off the principal only on all the loans and bonds that exist, the entire currency supply just vanishes. So if we don't go deeper into debt every year, look what happens. The whole thing goes into a deflationary collapse under the weight of those payments. Politicians and pundits alike talk about balancing the budget, paying down the debt, and living within our means. They don't understand that that is deflationary. It is impossible to do under our current monetary system without collapsing the whole economy. This is why any talk of a debt ceiling is not only ridiculous, it's delusional. The system is designed to require ever-increasing levels of debt just to continue. And that's why politicians will always kick the can down the road and raise this so-called debt ceiling over and over again until the whole system finally collapses under its own weight. In other words, they don't want it to collapse on their watch. The Founding Fathers of the United States knew the dangers of central banking and fought to free themselves from this very thing. The Revolutionary War started out as a tax revolt, but now we must pay tax just to have a monetary system. Having just suffered through the hyperinflation of the continental dollar, which was printed into oblivion to finance the Revolutionary War, they understood the dangers of fiat currency and debt-based monetary systems. So to protect future generations from institutional theft and out-of-control government, they wrote into the Constitution that only gold and silver can be money for the simple fact that you can't print them. Our current system is not only unconstitutional, but it robs us of the liberty and prosperity our forefathers fought and died for. We are all feeling the effects of ignoring the Constitution right now. By forcing more currency into circulation, our purchasing power is diluted. Inflation is a slow and insidious stealth tax that is simply the result of this debt-based monetary system. This system empowers and benefits those who create the currency and receive it first, as they get to spend it into circulation before it has an effect on the economy. They're stealing purchasing power from you and transferring it to the banks and the government every hour of every day because of this false monetary system. And it's not like the people at the top don't know this. To quote the Federal Reserve, the decrease in purchasing power incurred by the holders of money due to inflation imparts gains to the issuers of money. This is a fraud. It is a pyramid scheme, it is a Ponzi scheme, it's a scam, and it's a lie. Our entire monetary system is nothing but a form of legalized theft. But here's the biggest con job of them all. The Federal Reserve is not federal, it has stockholders. There is no federal agency that has stockholders. What's a stockholder? A share of stock represents a percentage of ownership in a corporation. So the stockholders are the owners of that corporation. Therefore, the Federal Reserve is a private corporation with owners. And you can see it for yourself if you go to the Federal Reserve's website, and it will say, the stockholders receive an annual dividend of 6%. Now we know that the stock in the Federal Reserve was originally issued to the largest banks in the United States. But because of mergers and acquisitions through the years, you can't actually trace who owns the stock in the Federal Reserve. That's a very closely guarded secret. My guess would be that the owners are those primary dealers, the banks that get to make a profit by selling part of our national debt, those bonds, to the Federal Reserve, who buys them with a check from nothing. Then we pay tax to pay the principal and the interest on those bonds so that the Federal Reserve can pay the banks a 6% dividend. Don't be alarmed if you don't quite comprehend the deception of this system at first glance. Very few people do. It is purposely complex. The economist John Maynard Keynes once wrote, "By this means, government may secretly and unobserved confiscate the wealth of the people, and not one man in a million will detect the theft." I believe that presented correctly, anyone can understand this system, regardless of how complex it is. So let's do a recap and break it down even more. The way the system works is that, step 1, the government creates glorified IOUs. These bonds increase our national debt and put the public on the hook to pay it back. Step 2, IOUs are swapped to create currency. The Treasury sells the bonds to the banks. The banks then turn around and sell our national debt at a profit to the Federal Reserve, which they probably own. The Federal Reserve then opens its checkbook that doesn't have a penny in it and buys those IOUs with IOUs that it writes, checks, on a checking account that has a zero balance. Then they give those checks to the banks and currency just springs into existence, and then the whole process repeats. This results in a buildup of bonds at the Federal Reserve and currency at the Treasury, which is really just a supply of numbers. The Treasury then deposits the numbers in the various branches of the government, and we get to step 3. The government spends the numbers on promises, public works, social programs, and war. Then the government employees, contractors, and soldiers deposit their pay into the banks, and we get to step 4, where the banks multiply the numbers by magically inventing more IOUs through fractional reserve lending, where they steal a portion of everyone's deposit and lend it out. That currency gets redeposited, and then a portion is stolen again, and the process repeats over and over, magnifying the currency supply exponentially. Then we work for some of those numbers, which brings us to step 5, where our numbers are taxed. We pay tax to the IRS, who then turns our numbers over to the Treasury so the Treasury can pay the principal plus the interest on bonds that were purchased by the Federal Reserve with a check from nothing. Then we get to step 6, the debt ceiling delusion. The system is designed to require ever-increasing levels of debt and will eventually collapse under its own weight because politicians always kick the can down the road. They don't want it to collapse on their watch. And finally, step 7, the secret owners take their cut. The world's largest banks own the Federal Reserve. Those banks make a profit selling our national debt to the Fed. They make a profit when the Fed pays them interest on the reserves held at the Fed, and the Fed pays them a 6% dividend on their ownership of the Fed. This system is fundamentally evil. It funnels wealth from the working population to the government and the banking sector. It is the cause of the artificial booms and busts of modern economies, and it causes great disparity of wealth between the rich and the working class. And it is only possible because we no longer use real money, we use currency. But worst of all, it is a form of enslavement. Bond is the root word of bondage. Whenever a government issues a bond, it is a promise to make us pay tax in the future. Nobody asked you if you wanted to pay tax today for the prosperity we all enjoyed in the last century. Nobody is asking our children if they want to work hard in the future to pay for the prosperity we're enjoying now. George Washington once wrote to James Madison, "No generation has the right to contract debts greater than can be paid off during the course of its own existence." By stealing prosperity from tomorrow so we can spend it today, we enslave ourselves and future generations. Now this all sounds pretty bad, but there is great hope, for you are the greatest threat to this false monetary system. This system relies on the public being ignorant of its workings. Please share this knowledge with everyone you know, because an informed public that fully understands the system can build a better future for generations to come.
And then once the people start really figuring all this shit out, once people start figuring out how cheap it is to send Litecoin or Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it all happens literally overnight. It almost, damn, did I say this already? Almost as if, during the summer, these things catch fire. So listen, man, I feel like right now we're just getting primed, getting ready. Everyone is just, getting, it's just like a weird, it's like a big blanket statement, but at the end of the day, like, I really do feel like everyone is just getting, mentally ready, or the whole universe is readying mentally the rest of the population for what is to come. Because don't be surprised if we do see the death of the dollar by the end of the year, and the death of a lot of social norms by the end of the year. All right, and we're already. Oh, damn! Look, today is the 4th, 5th. So 5th. Okay, so in a few days, by next week, we're gonna be in month number 5. Okay, so that means like almost halfway through the year. Almost halfway through the year, guys. The year is flying fucking by. You remember in January how everything was just slow, and now everything is just like starting to pick up. And again, we can even see it in just every time you look at crypto market cap, it just keeps going up and up. And it's not even like, even if the prices are kind of remaining steady, the volume is increasing, and that is what we're looking for. The volume, okay? And again, we're seeing everything from the Mt. Gox guy, fucking dumping shit. We're just seeing the map manipulation. They're still going at it, but they also realize that there's a lot of influx of people coming in, and they're trying to gauge it so they can do it correctly. All right, but the reality is that, again, the herd is coming, and once the herd is here, it's gonna be too late for any more manipulation. All right, the more people join, the harder it is to manipulate this space. And again, remember, Bitcoin is the gold, and it will be the hold of value. But remember, once people figure out that once people hit that roadblock again, that they can't really use Bitcoin for just regular transactions, and all that stuff, and people do a little research, that's when Litecoin is going to start pumping. Okay, it's once people discover it. The only people that have discovered Litecoin is Charlie Lee and us in the community. That's it. Almost nobody fucking knows about it, all right, at all. But once people really figure it out, Jesus, man, to the fucking moon. All right. You know it. One day, and this is exactly how it's gonna be. I'm poor as fuck here. You know, I can't afford barely to fucking pay my bills and this whole thing. Why? Because I am hodling like a motherfucker. Like, I mean, you have no fucking clue. I mean, you know, I got like a tiny amount of Bitcoin, but it's all Litecoin right now. I mean, fuck it. You know, because I mean, and you don't think it fucking hurts that I'm seeing some coins, especially like an EOS, you know, like where it was like a week and a half ago, like at $6, and now it's at 18 bucks. And I'm a huge believer in that. But to me, like it's just, I'm really just trying to accumulate as much as possible when it comes to Litecoin. Why? Because I know that, you know, right now we're at 150, but you know, very easily by this time next week, or like within a week's time span or a few days time span, that, you know, $150 coin could be worth $1,000 like that. Okay? And no matter how much EOS could jump, I really don't think that it's going to be at Ethereum's prices, just because of the volume difference, in the sense that, like, you know, there's just way too many more EOS tokens than there are Ethereum. And to me, even though they're kind of the same thing, they're really not. They're really two completely different things. And yeah, I see, you know, like, if anything, like, as I'm seeing EOS go up in price, now, you know, I'm correlating that shit, if anything, to inflation, because, you know, that's almost seeing like, again, I got to look at the coins per se, but if, you know, let's just say that EOS has the same amount of coins as Ripple, and if we do the same, you know, kind of like math, listen, you know, a $20 EOS token is like, you know, like Bitcoin at like 20 million or some shit like that. And that, I know this is a very exaggerated number. I'm sucky with numbers, but you kind of get it. Like, it's this is something there. So I got to like do a little research on that, which I will. But again, it's, to me, it's just being involved in this space. I was even thinking to myself last night, maybe I should start, you know, learning how to program, or learning a little more about this space, or as much as I can, okay? To contribute as much as I can. And I'm going full, like every single day, I'm just getting more crypto, okay? Because this is the future. This is our lives. This is it. That's it. There's a lot of stuff, you know, we could all be doing, but I feel like this is the real future right here, and it just feels so amazing to be part of it. Well, anyways, so much for like a 10-minute episode. We're close to 20, the usual. So, anyways, it's a mouthful today, as usual. You already know it. This is just the awakening episode. You know, let's get ready episode, because, man, pretty much everything I was saying a couple months ago, like, man, I kind of have a feeling that May is gonna fucking bring. By the way, that's that website that you guys should be checking out, the one with all the highway. I'm gonna put the link at the bottom. You know, the one with the Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Check it out. That's what's making that noise. There's no one giving me anything. All right, it's just a stupid little video game thing. But anyway, the point is that, like, it's fucking amazing. It's beautiful times. What was I saying? May is gonna be the beginning of the upshoot up. It just is. You know, the rocket shoot up, the bull run of bull runs. And hold on to your fucking hats, all right? I don't know if it's gonna be a bull run that's gonna go all the way through December. Who knows? You know, it might go to like October, peter out, and then we'll have another one. Remember, we still have the economy that's gonna crash, and it's gonna crash this year. It just is. And I mean, again, don't quote me on these things, but it's just, I mean, the way I feel it and the way I'm seeing it, I don't see why it wouldn't crash this year. So, and again, all this is correlating together with this, because as it crashes, you know, people will need to be putting, you know, their faith in something else. And what else are they going to put it in? All right. So, all right, guys, I'm letting it go here because that's it. You know, we've already hit the 20-minute mark, as you can see. It's Friday. Got to go. We all got to go. We're going to enjoy the fucking weekend and enjoy life, you know, because that's what life is about. You know, you got to fucking enjoy it no matter what, okay? Always. So, thanks again for watching. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please smoke some fucking weed. Please smoke some fucking weed. If you've never smoked weed, try it. Just try it. Trust me, you'll like it. And if you don't, it's okay, at least you try it. Also get a better lighter. I hate these lighters, but they're free. Anyway, please like, please subscribe, please share. Please, you already know what to do with the links down there, alright? So throw me a few whatever if you have a few whatevers, okay? I'm not even going to talk about that shit no more. I love you fucking guys. I'll see you guys on Monday. And, man, let's just hope that we have the bull runs through the weekend, and that we have an, oh my God, that we have an amazing Monday. But again, It's coming. It's coming. We can all feel it. We can all sense it. We can all everything, okay? It's coming, all right? We will be renting those Lambos by the end of the year, okay? All right, I got the yellow one. All right, see you guys later. Bye.